On August 6, 1945, the atomic bomb Little Boy was detonated over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. 3 days later, another bomb, codenamed Fat Man, was detonated over Nagasaki. Within minutes of the explosions, tens of thousands of people were incinerated. Those who were not fortunate enough to be far away from the detonation site or close enough to die instantly suffered far worse fates. This was the first and so far the last time a nuclear bomb has been used in warfare, but the threat never truly vanished. Today, our entire civilization continues to live in its shadow. The fear of nuclear war was most intensely felt during the Cold War, when the United States and the Soviet Union engaged in an arms race that led both sides to produce tens of thousands of nuclear weapons. At one point, this race became irrational, as each side had amassed so many nuclear weapons that they could have destroyed the planet multiple times over. The possibility of nuclear war was often discussed in the media, representing a pressing concern in people's minds. Many countries built shelters that, in theory, would have protected them if the Cold War had turned hot. As tensions between the two geopolitical blocs eased, both sides reached agreements to reduce their nuclear arsenals. After 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed and the Cold War ended, public anxiety vanished. An entire generation grew up entirely unaware that not long ago people lived in fear of an apocalypse that could strike at any moment. Yet, at any time, we are only a step away from nuclear war. If a nuclear-armed country decides to strike its enemies, the time from the command order until the nuclear weapons incinerate their targets is less than 40 minutes. The peace and quiet that settled over our world after the Cold War ended is slowly being replaced by geopolitical tensions and conflict. To make matters more complicated, new countries possess nuclear weapons, while others are very close to reaching that point. Since February 24, 2022, Russia and Ukraine have been engaged in a war of a magnitude that Europe has not seen since World War II. The Western world, led by the United States, has provided Ukraine with financial and military assistance. Over time, restrictions were lifted, allowing Ukraine to strike deep inside Russia with Western-supplied long-range weapons. The war has become a bloody stalemate. Russia still occupies around 20% of Ukraine and continues slow advances in the east, but at enormous cost. Moscow has repeatedly warned that crossing certain red lines could trigger severe responses, including nuclear ones, and views the conflict as existential to its security. Both sides see the stakes as too high to back down easily, creating a dangerous escalatory spiral. The People's Republic of China views the period from 1840 to 1949 as the century of humiliation, during which the great Chinese civilization was disrespected and abused by colonial powers. Since then, China has united under the leadership of Mao Zedong, and his successor, Deng Xiaoping, has steered the country on a path to prosperity. Colonial relics such as Hong Kong and Macau were returned to China. However, in the eyes of the Chinese Communist Party, there remains one unresolved relic from the century of humiliation: Taiwan. The Chinese Communist Party views the reunification of Taiwan as the final step in erasing its historic century of humiliation. While Beijing prefers a peaceful unification, it has rapidly expanded its conventional military and nuclear stockpiles, refusing to rule out military force. With the United States firmly backing Taiwan's de facto independence, the region is a tinderbox where a miscalculation could trigger a disaster. India and Pakistan swiftly separated from one another after gaining independence from the British, but the conflict over who should rule the Kashmir region has poisoned their relations in what appears to be an irreparable manner. Both countries have developed nuclear weapons, which has led to a cessation of the periodic wars that characterized earlier decades. Each side fears the consequences that a nuclear war would bring, yet both maintain a finger on the trigger. North Korea is now recognized as a nuclear power. The fear of ending up like Nicolae Ceausescu or Muammar Gaddafi has led the Kim dynasty to realize that no piece of paper or verbal assurance that they would not be targeted in the future is worth more than possessing nuclear weapons. Will South Korea or Japan be content to remain the only countries in the region without nuclear capabilities? And Iran is on the brink of developing nuclear weapons, a capability that Israel acquired long ago. The Middle East seems destined for continuous conflict. If Iran becomes nuclear armed, it is difficult to imagine that Turkey or Saudi Arabia would not follow suit. What makes nuclear wars so dangerous is not only the destruction they can cause, but also how quickly they would unfold. Intercontinental ballistic missiles, the primary means of delivering nuclear weapons, travel at astonishing speeds, capable of reaching any part of the globe in around 30 minutes. To this day, there is no defense system that can efficiently protect a territory from ICBMs, which is why every nuclear-armed state maintains a policy of deterrence. This policy ensures that if they are attacked, they will launch a retaliatory strike of their own in the short time before the enemy's nuclear weapons arrive. Most nuclear-armed states have advanced early warning systems designed to detect any incoming attack as soon as possible. This capability is crucial because decision-makers, when confronted with an incoming attack, have only a few minutes to decide whether to retaliate. There have been cases when these warning systems malfunctioned, indicating false alarms of an impending attack. Fortunately, the decision-makers were smart enough to realize within the limited time available that the threat was not real. If one day the early warning systems of a nuclear power do not malfunction but indicate a genuine attack, the most likely response would be a full retaliation. In that scenario, within hours, hundreds, if not thousands of nuclear weapons would detonate. Hundreds of millions of people would die either instantly or in the ensuing days due to burns or radiation exposure. The debris thrown into the atmosphere would block sunlight, leading to a phenomenon known as nuclear winter, causing global temperatures to plummet. Radioactivity would contaminate the air and water. Earth, once a comfortable home for countless species, would become hostile to life. Since life has existed on Earth, more than 99% of the species that have ever existed have gone extinct. It seems a matter of time until it is our turn, and we have no reason to believe that humanity is immune to that cycle. However, if humanity were to disappear, it would not be due to a nuclear war. Pockets of humanity could survive and endure the hostile conditions until Earth gradually becomes hospitable again. Much knowledge would be lost to those survivors. The journeys we have already undertaken in understanding science, engineering, and the history of our world would need to be retaken. For the survivors, regaining the scientific and technological level of our present world might take centuries, a long time for us, but in cosmic terms, just a blink of an eye.